Well, that's what I get for trying to do an intro. It loops, so that shows you that I have a little bit more glitches to figure out how to control. Hi, everybody. Hey, this is Politico. Yeah, we're listening to a little playlist called Cancel Culture. That's funny. But hopefully everybody's doing good. I'm doing pretty good. We have some breaking news. I go to my dashboard so y'all can see that, but okay. But yeah, we have some breaking news today. So the Senate actually passes the $1.9 trillion COVID bill. So everybody who was hoping that that would pass, it has succeeded. So you're going to get a COVID bill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the moment when it passed the Senate, and then we're going to listen to Joe Biden's comments. So we're going to pause the music. And we're going to go to Chuck Schumer's. So we're going to listen to that. And this is Chuck Schumer speaking about this as this just happened. So here we go.
When Democrats assumed the majority in this chamber, we promised to pass legislation to rescue our people from the depths of the pandemic and bring our economy and our country roaring back. In a few moments, we are going to deliver on that promise. This bill will deliver more help to more people than anything the federal government has done in decades. It is broader, deeper, and more comprehensive in helping working families and lifting people out of poverty than anything Congress has seen or accomplished in a very long time. The pandemic has affected nearly every aspect of American life, so this bill spans the gamut and provides support to
the gamut. What a word. No one uses that anymore.
Americans who doubted that the government can help them in this time of crisis.
No one uses that word anymore.
Direct checks. Your schools will receive assistance to reopen quickly and safely. Your local businesses will get another lifeline. And the day when you receive the vaccine will be a lot sooner. The American Rescue Plan will go down as one of the most sweeping federal recovery efforts in history. It's never easy to pass legislation as momentum as this, but it will all and soon be worth it. Now, I know that on Saturday morning, the American people aren't watching our proceedings here. They're probably out
I'm watching it right now,
sitting down with at breakfast with the kids. But I want them to know help is on the way, that their government is going to give one final push to get us over the finish line. I want the American people to know that we're going to get through this, and someday soon, our businesses will reopen, our economy will reopen, and life will reopen. We will end this terrible plague, and we will travel again and send our kids to school again and be together again. Our job right now is to help our country get from this stormy present to that hopeful future. And it starts with voting aye on the legislation before us. Vote yes on the American Rescue Plan. Vote yes. And before I yield the floor, one final note. Let us all express our deepest gratitude to all of my colleagues. We went through a long, long period in the last day. To the staffs of the committees and the personal Senate offices who worked so hard to put this legislation together. And especially, let us thank the great floor staff, the clerks, the cafeteria workers, the custodial staff, and the Capitol Police.
The Senate has never spent $2 trillion in a more haphazard way or through a less rigorous process. Voters gave Senate Democrats the slimmest possible majority. Voters picked a president who promised unity and bipartisanship. Democrats' response is to ram through what they call, quote, the most progressive domestic legislation in a generation.
We'll talk about this.
On a razor-thin majority in both houses. The right path was obvious. We followed it 5 times last year. 5 rescue packages totaling $4 trillion, and none of them got fewer than 90 votes. The Senate wrote the CARES Act, Republicans and Democrats shoulder to shoulder. That was the road to real pandemic relief, but Democrats actually wanted, Mr. President, something else. They explained their intent very clearly, to exploit this crisis, quote, as a tremendous opportunity to restructure things to fit our vision. That's how you get this massive bill with only 1% for vaccinations. That ignores the science on reopening schools that's stuffed with non-COVID related spending that even top liberal economists say is wrong for the recovery. Democrats inherited a tide that is already turning. 2021 is already set to be our comeback year because the American people's resilience and the bipartisan foundation that we laid last year. We could have worked together to speed up victory,
Well,
but our Democratic colleagues made a decision.
I didn't see a willingness by McConnell to work together, but we'll talk about
their
that.
Washington wish list. So, Mr. President and colleagues, I strongly recommend a no vote.
The yeas are 50, the nays are 49. The bill as amended is passed.
Hiya, ABC. I don't want hi, ABC. So we just used an ABC News clip here. But yeah. So that happened, actually. That bill passed. And then Biden speaks. Just getting a little bit off traffic here. Off traffic/topic. You know, I can actually talk today. But this bill just happened. It's going back into the House of Representatives. So then it will pass the House easily, the Democratic-controlled House, and get on President Biden's desk by at least next Thursday, I believe. I believe they're trying to do it by Thursday, which, you know, some people might say it's not soon enough where people can get their stimulus checks. But if you look at your calendars, if you're in the United States, I believe benefits start to run out by the next week. So this is going to be right on the slimmest of margins, right on time for those people who rely on public aid and benefits, federal benefits that are scheduled to run out. So for everyone who is currently getting federal unemployment aid from the government, this should be somewhat of a good news if you live in a tax bracket, make less than, I believe, $80,000. If you make less than $80,000, I believe you'll get a stimulus check of $300 until September. I believe that's the important stuff. A lot of this other stuff in the bills relates to states, relates to funding vaccination sites, relates to funding different projects that the Democrats have wanted to do, I believe. But, you know, if you want to read 498 pages of the bill, we can. If you want to read 498 pages of the bill, Ron Johnson last night said, hey, we need to stay here and read this bill aloud in front of every person in the Senate chamber. And I believe it started, but then there was an amendment, a vote that forced Ron Johnson to stop reading the bill. So for everybody who was looking forward to read all 498 pages of the bill, that was shut down by the 50 Democrats in the Senate, and also the 50 votes that have voted for this bill as well. All 50 Senate Democrats have voted for this Protection Act, Pandemic Protection Act, the COVID Recovery Bill, whatever you want to call it. And all of the Republicans voted against it. 49 voted against it. Why was it not 50? It was not 50 voters because I believe a senator from Alaska had to go to a funeral. So this person was not present to vote. So next I want to listen to Joe Biden speak. I want to listen to him speak about the bill being passed. This is a 10-minute speech. His help is on the way. So we're going to do that right now, I believe. If I do this right, it should show up. All right, and this is Joe Biden speaking after the Senate passes the relief plan. This literally just happened today. Here you go.
When we took office 45 days ago, I promised the American people that help was on the way. Today, I can say we've taken one more giant step forward in delivering on that promise, that help is on the way. I want to start off by thanking the Vice President, but I want to thank all of the senators who worked so hard to reach a compromise, to do the right thing for the American people during this crisis, and voted to pass the American Rescue Plan. It obviously wasn't easy. It wasn't always pretty, but it was so desperately needed, urgently needed. I also need to say a few words about the Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who I spoke with many times in this and again this morning. I served in the Senate, as you all know, for many years. I've never seen anyone work as skillfully, as ably, as patiently, with determination to deliver such a consequential piece of legislation that was so urgently needed as the American Rescue Plan. Chuck Schumer, Senator Chuck Schumer. When the country needed you most, you led, Chuck, and you delivered.
Crying Chuck.
The country will never forget that. And it's not a moment too soon. I've been talking about the urgency of this need. For over a year, the American people were told they were on their own. We've seen how hard that has been on so many Americans. As of last night, 519,064 lives lost to the virus. That many empty chairs this morning, the breakfast table, gone. More than 400 small businesses closed unnecessarily. Millions of people out of work through no fault of their own. I want to emphasize that. Through no fault of their own. Food bank lines stretching for miles. Did any of you ever think you'd see that in America? In cities all across this country?
The Great Depression.
Families facing the threat of eviction. This nation has suffered too much for much too long. And everything in this package is designed to relieve the suffering and to meet the most urgent needs of the nation.
I'm not a fan of these advertisements in the corner, but that's not Joe Biden's fault.
Starting with beating this virus and vaccinating the country. The resources of this plan will be used to expand and speed up manufacturing and distribution of vaccines so we can get every single American vaccinated sooner than later. I believe we'll have enough by the middle of May to vaccinate. It's going to take longer to get in their arms, but that's how much vaccine we'll have. Because of all the funding, we'll be able to hire more vaccinators, set up more vaccination sites to get the country in a place to get back to normal. This plan will get checks out the door starting this month to the American people who so desperately need the help. Many of whom are lying in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering, will I lose my job if I haven't already? Will I lose my insurance? Will I lose my home? Over 85% of American households will get direct payments of $1,400 per person. For a typical middle-class family of four, husband and wife working, making $100,000 a year total, with 3 kids, they'll get $5,600. With 2 kids, we'll get $5,600, and it'll be on the way soon. That means the mortgage can get paid. That means the child can stay in community college. That means maintaining the health insurance you have. It's going to make a big difference in so many lives in this country. Unemployment benefits will be extended for 11 million Americans who've lost their jobs, who
This is the important part, especially for me, actually.
Thinking, my Lord, I'm going to lose my unemployment insurance in a week or so. It's about to expire. Schools are going to have the resources they need to open safely. States and local governments that have lost tens of thousands of essential workers will have the resources they need available to them. To those laid-off police officers, firefighters, teachers, and nurses they can rehire. These are essential personnel. Look, the American Rescue Plan lowers health care premiums, food and nutrition assistance. It's hard to believe that 24 million adults and 11 million children, as I speak, in the United States suffer from food insecurity. That means simply they don't have enough food to eat. Did you ever imagine in the United States of America, you'd see lines literally miles long, folks in their automobiles waiting for a box of food to be put in their
Planes,
trunk.
trains, and automobiles.
I stood in line handing out food. The people coming up never, ever, ever thought they'd be in that position. This helps families who are behind in their rent and their mortgage payments so they aren't thrown out of their homes. Look, the bottom line is this. This plan puts us on a path to beating the virus. This plan gives those families who are struggling the most the help and the breathing room they need to get through this moment. This plan gives small businesses in this country a fighting chance to survive. And one more thing. This plan is historic. Taken all together, this plan is going to make it possible to cut child poverty in half. Let me say it again. It's significant, historic. We'll cut child poverty in half. There's much more to this bill, but for now, let me make one final point.
There's a lot in this bill.
When I was elected, I said we were going to get the government out of the business of battling on Twitter and back in the business of delivering for the American people, of making a difference in their lives, giving everyone a chance, a fighting chance, of showing the American people that their government can work for them. And passing the American Rescue Plan will do that.
That's what it's called, the American Rescue
And
Plan.
you know, it may sound strange, but a lot of senators and congressmen I want to thank, but I really want to thank the American people for making all this possible. You say, well, how did they make it possible? Well, quite frankly, without the overwhelming bipartisan support of the American people, this would not have happened. Your elected officials heard you. Overwhelming public support. Every public opinion poll shows overwhelming support for this plan. And for the last weeks, it's shown that. Every public opinion poll shows that people want this. They believe it's needed, and they believe it's urgent. Now this bill returns to the House of Representatives, which has done a great job from the beginning, where I hope it will find quick passage so it can be sent to my desk to be signed into law. By passing the American Rescue Plan, we'll have heeded the voice of the American people, not ignored their voices. By passing this plan, we would have delivered real, tangible results for the American people and their families. And they'll be able to see and know and feel the change in their own lives. And by passing this plan, we'll have proved that this government, this democracy, can still work. What has to be done? It'll improve people's lives. And one more thing. The vast majority of economists, left, right, and center, from Wall Street to the private
Joe.
economic
Come on, Joe.
Polling.
Come on, Joe. Come on, Joe. You can do
The
it.
economists, as I said, left, right, and center, say, in addition to the needs the people have, we need this to grow the economy. That if we haven't spent this money and recreated the kind of incentive for people to be able to make a good living, that we'd be in real trouble. This will create millions of new jobs. There's estimated over 6 million new jobs by itself. Increase the gross domestic product by $1 trillion. Put our nation in a position to outcompete the rest of the world, because the rest of the world is moving, particularly China. And to know that as tough as this moment is, there are brighter days ahead. There really are. As I said before, it's never a good bet to bet against America. It's never been a good bet to bet against the American people. We are America. We're going to get there. We're going to remain the leading economy in the world and going to be the most successful economy in the world because of you, the American people. Thank you, and God bless you all. May God protect our troops. Thank you.
Look at that. He's like, hey.
And what does the drama of the last 24 hours, including with Senator Manchin, tell you about the next 4 years?
They're going to be good. I'm going to succeed. We're going to succeed moving forward. Look, the American people strongly support what we're doing. That's the key here. And that's going to continue to seep down through the public, including from our Republican friends. There's a lot of Republicans that came very close. They've got a lot of pressure on them. I still haven't given up on getting their support. Thank you.
That's it. Okay. Yeah, you can see these videos just come up in my recommend. I don't even know what half of these are. Fun fact, this track being played by Harris Heller Stream Beats is called Cancel Culture. Isn't that funny? But yeah, so this bill just passed. Now, what does it mean to me personally? Well, to me, this bill will help me personally because, you know, I have unemployment. I'm not afraid to say that. I think a lot of people in the United States are facing unprecedented unemployment. I used to work in the service industry, and I have not had employment in that field for a year. So, in order to you know, keep myself from, you know, being bored out of my mind, I, you know, decided to stream. And that's where all this came from. You know, honestly, streaming is something that I do to entertain myself. And, you know, it's something I'm very fortunate to be able to do. And it's something that I will continue to enjoy doing. But as for this bill, it will help me receive some extra cash with the $300, I believe. So, you know, that'll be nice. I believe those benefits will stay until September. So that's good, helpful and good. What else is there to say? So there was absolutely no Republican support for this bill, and there are a couple reasons for that. First reason is the Republicans didn't want to support a $1.9 trillion package. They thought it was a bailout for liberal dream projects. And there were different amendments in the rescue plan passed by the House that was voted down by the Senate, including an amendment which would have gradually incrementally raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And this amendment was forced to a vote by Chairman Bernie Sanders of the Senate. He's still a senator from Vermont. He did not win the primary in 2020, and, you know, he brought it to a vote to see what kind of support he got. And it failed pretty unanimously. There were 8 Democrats that voted against the $15 minimum wage hike. I'll call it a minimum wage hike. And one of them was criticized harshly for doing like a little curtsy while rejecting the proposal. Very similar to John McCain when he voted against the Trump Care Health Bill, which failed to pass the Republican Senate 3 years ago now. Holy crap, that's a long time ago. But the point still stands. The Senate is a body where bills go to die. And by the very slimmest of margins, the Democrats avoided a pitfall today. They were able to pass the bill that they needed to do. They were able to get together and fall in line, and they were able to pass the bill that they mostly wanted. And we'll talk about that in just a second. Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia. And we will get a picture of him in just a second. Joe Manchin of West Virginia. Let's do this picture, because this picture's pretty... Do this one. Let's see that real quick. Look at that. So here is Senator Joe Manchin, and you see him right here holding a gun. He is a, I believe this picture was from a campaign ad. It's from a campaign ad from 2018. But he is seen here holding a gun, trying to prove that he is a gun-toting, just as cool as the Republican West Virginia. But Joe Manchin is under fire, particularly for lots of things lately. One of these things today, he lowered the payment threshold from $600 for additional aid to $300 in additional aid. He was like, yeah, I can't do $600. That's too much of a... So he decided to help negotiate it to $300. So then benefit payments will stop in September of this coming year. So Joe Manchin, he is currently under fire in the Democratic caucus due to not wanting to abolish the filibuster. He was quoted as saying, "I will never get rid of the filibuster." He sees the filibuster as a tool in the toolbox in order to stop a slim majority from passing bills. I see his side. He's trying to make sure that the Republicans, if they hold on to power, which I will argue at some point that they might hold on to power in the midterms, Joe Manchin's trying to argue that in order to keep a power dynamic in play between the majority and the minority, that the filibuster needs to stay. Now, there's a liberal talking point that says that the filibuster is a trademark and holdover from being careful with my words here, from outdated legislation in the 1800s. And if you want to look up where the filibuster came from, it came from the era where Jim Crow laws were active. Just to put that into perspective, Republicans have often used the filibuster to block civil rights bills. Democratic senators. This filibuster is also the reason why so many bills come into the Senate and die by the Senate. That's just how it has been, and Joe Manchin wants to keep it that way in order to limit control of the minority. And I think he is a little worried about 2022 as those primaries are coming up. 2022 could be a bloodbath. We're going to take Joe Manchin's picture here. I want to look at the 2021 Senate map. Let's look at the Senate map. Not the Georgia one. I guess we can look at this. You'll see that second. So you'll see the balance of power. This is a graph that show the balance of power in the Senate. We have 50 Democratic senators, 2 senators from the Georgia runoff election, which I covered with Wang Bang in a previous stream, and 50 Republican senators. 50 Republican senators from the 2020 election, due to some pickups in a few states as well. So this balance of power is interesting. It's not something that was seen since the George H.W. Bush administration. You know, when I talk about the Bushes, I talk about Daddy Bush and Baby Bush. This was Daddy Bush administration. So it's going to be interesting to see how the power dynamic shifts. The Democrats have passed a couple bills in the House, but they face an uncertain future in the Senate because of the filibuster. Now, the filibuster, for anybody who doesn't know, is a little procedural tool where if you have a majority of 50, but less than a supermajority of 60 votes, in order to pass bills without this filibuster, then you need 2/3 of a vote. You need a supermajority. You need 60 votes in order to pass bills and end opposition to bills that are passed by a simple majority. A simple majority is 51. See on the chart here, needed for control, 51 senators. But to pass a bill, matter-of-factly, with the current power dynamic, to have 10 Republican senators pledge support for the bill. Now, there was a criminal justice bill that was passed in the House, which faces an uncertain future in the Senate. It could be easily filibustered. There was a voting rights bill that was passed in the House, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, that also faces an uncertain future in the Senate due to the filibuster. Now, I'm going to predict right here, right now, mark my words, both of these bills are going to be endlessly filibustered until the midterms of 2022. And the Republican Party, with former President Donald Trump, is going to use their leverage in order to try and make a comeback in 2022. Now, President Trump spoke at CPAC. I'm going to make a separate video about President Trump speaking at CPAC, so don't worry about that, because that is an interesting trip. He didn't speak nearly as long, but we'll cover that in a future press room. But one of the things that he mentioned recently is that he was going to go after the senators that voted to hold him guilty. I was trying to figure out what to say there. But President Trump has vowed to campaign against senators which voted to convict him in the second impeachment trial of President Trump, which showed that he was responsible for the Capitol riots. I have put a video up on my YouTube channel previously, if you want to know my feelings on that, and so on and so forth. But with the Senate makeup of that time, the Senate narrowly acquitted President Trump of those actions. Not the right word. Crimes, because it's not a crime, because it wasn't convicted. You see, when you come up with different words, you have to make sure you come up with the right adjective. I would say outcome. That's the outcome of the trial, that he was acquitted for the actions, for the accusations. That's what caught accusations that he inspired the Capitol riots. The Senate was like, eh. That happened with the Senate trial, and now we have a power split. Now, why is it 50-50 and not like 50 or 56-50? Well, the only reason the Democrats have 50 seats is because of the runoff elections in Georgia. In the 2020 election, Raphael Warnock, and forgot the other person. Ossoff, yes. Ossoff was around and won against Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. That's why Democrats have 50 seats. Because Stacey Abrams and her voting coalition voted, got her people, which is the Democrats, got everybody to go out and vote. Because she had a committee, she had a whole movement to get her allies out and get people to vote. However, which this will be an interesting development, the Georgia legislature passed a bill that would limit the voting rights granted during the pandemic, as well as block people who are. So if you're waiting in line to vote, you could have the voting process which could take less than a minute, depending on where you are. But there are some precincts where the voting process takes hours. So you could have or days. Not even days. No, that's hours. I exaggerate, but it could take days to reach a vote. And lost my train of thought. Not days, hours. Come on, Paul. It could take hours to reach your polling booth. And the Republicans added a little clause to the bill saying, if you're saying that if you're waiting in line, right, you're waiting for hours, that someone can't go up to you and give you water. I think that is pretty absurd. It's not a felony to give a voter, a fellow participant in the democratic republic system, water. Vote. Because if you're standing in line in a hot day, or even if it's cold, or if you're just sitting there, it'd be very thirsty. So, even if you're voting early, it's definitely a pain, and it's going to be something that the people of Georgia will fight till the end. But so far, I believe this bill is steadily moving through the Georgia legislature, and there's a lot of different Republican governments across the United States, and they are passing bills to limit the access to voting places, ballot drop boxes, things like that. That's something that we'll talk about a little bit more. I learned this information, but the point of this is it's going to be a long road for the Democrats in 2022 due to these roadblocks that are currently being set up by the GOP and so on and so forth, because the GOP has a few opportunities to take back some seats. So we'll just have to see how that goes. But really, the whole point of today is to, if you're a Democrat, then you would be happy about this bill. And hopefully, at the very least, you will be feeling a little bit better about your unemployment benefits if you are currently unemployed. So that was the breaking news. Ladies and germs. Really was what happened. Okay. But there doesn't seem to be too much action going on. Probably because it's 8:48 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right now. And yeah, really, things are coming along at my side of the pond. But there's a lot of things to talk about in the press room eventually, but I just wanted to watch this and go over stuff about what's happening and so on and so forth. But honestly, this has been the Paul Politico press room, and you've been watching with me, Paul Politico. Really, that was the breaking news today. For those of you who haven't watched, the Senate just passed the $1.9 trillion COVID rescue package, which would allow Americans to receive $1,400 and $300 in bonus aid per person So for a lot of people, probably hear my dog. For a lot of people, this is a boon to them, and we will see how this affects the Democrats going forward into the midterms, which is definitely something I want to talk about, as well as how will this shape what the Republicans want to do in terms of opposition moving forward. But this is a huge development. I just wanted to watch that with you guys. Really, that's all I gotta say. That was a short stream, but just had to watch that and react to it with you guys. So this is Paul Politico. All I got to say today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. So I'll be signing off, and we'll do a game stream at some point with Paul Politico Plays Games. But for now, this has been Paul Politico, and we'll be signing off. A couple announcements before I go. Real quick, I'm not gonna be. I'll sign off in just a minute, but in terms of things going on, there's gonna be a game stream. I'm gonna have a new schedule going up, taking effect next week as we move forward. So there's going to be a game stream tomorrow. No, there's going to be a game stream on Friday and Saturday, and so on and so forth. But it's all on my Discord, so follow the Discord. It's all on the Twitch page, so it's all there. Find that out. But hey, this has been Paul Politico. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye, and so long, and have a great rest of your evening.